Hello and welcome back to Peaky Boardgamer. My name is Ektorakos and today I will teach you a beautiful board game by Dranda Games, Explorers of Navoria. The game can be played with up to 4 players, but if you also use the expansion of the game, Forgoten Lands, you can also play with up to 5 players and in a solo mode. I will start explaining the rules of both the core game and the additional features of the expansion right away, so don't go anywhere. In the game, players are sent by the Council of Navoria to explore 3 nearby territories. On every turn, players gain 1 card from the board by drawing tokens from a bag. Cards come in 5 different types with different instant and ongoing bonuses. Green cards give you resources, yellow cards enable you to build trading posts. With purple cards you advance your explorers in the territory tracks. With blue cards you increase your benefits in the income phase, and red cards give you end-of-game scoring bonuses. Apart from the bonuses, by gaining cards players will try to collect sets of species to gain favor tokens and become eligible to score more points for their cards. Points are also awarded for reaching the end of territory tracks, and by assigning resources to your docks efficiently, you trigger extra bonuses for trading posts you have built so far. In the end, the player with the most points will win in Explorers of Navoria. At first, place the board in the middle of the table. I'm using a mat which is not included in the base game. Then, place all action tokens into the cloth bag. If it's a 2 players game, however, you have to remove from the game 1 token of each type. Separate the cards of the game according to their type, and after you shuffle each stack, place them to their corresponding space of the board. Then, from each of the stacks, reveal the top 3 cards facing upwards. Shuffle the favor tiles and randomly fill all corresponding slots on the board with tiles facing upwards. All remaining tiles are placed back in the box. Important! If this is a 2 players game and if you want a tighter game, randomly remove one of these tiles from the game and place this blank tile. Create a supply with resources of the game. There are food, swords and crystals. Each player takes a personal board and chooses a color, taking all corresponding components. Player has a scoring marker, a player turn order marker, 3 explorers, 4 favor tokens and 9 building tokens. Players place the building tokens on the corresponding spaces of their personal board. The map is split in 3 different territories: the forest, the desert and the glacier. Each of these territories has a track, and this arrow indicates the starting point of these tracks. Each player places their 3 exploration tokens to the starting spaces of each track. Players place their favor tokens as a supply next to the board. Players place their scoring marker on space 0 of the scoring track, and finally choose a player at random to be the starting player who places their turn order marker on this space of this star. The rest of the player turn order is determined clockwise, and each player places their marker accordingly. The game is now ready to start. A short interruption here simply to remind you that if you haven't done already, please subscribe to our channel. It will help the channel grow and enable us to bring more videos of your favorite board games. The game is played in 3 rounds. Every round consists of the following phases: recruit, gather, income and return. At the end of the return phase, the round ends and players proceed with the next round. At the end of the 3rd round, players proceed with final scoring. Let's start explaining the recruit phase, which is the most important phase of the round. In the recruit phase, players alternate turns using this player turn order in clockwise manner, always starting with the player whose marker is on this space. On your turn, you will gain 1 of the face-up cards on the board. There are 5 different types of cards. There are 2 ways you can select a card. One is to take the bag and randomly draw 2 action tokens. You will select one of these tokens, which you will place on the corresponding type of cards on the face-down stack, and then you will select one of the face-up cards of the selected type. The token you did not select will have to be placed in the town center here. The card you selected will be placed in your personal tableau, and there are a lot of instant or ongoing effects. We will explain those in a bit. Now, the second way you can make your card selection is that if there are tokens in the town center, then instead of drawing from the bag, you may choose to select one of those instead and play it as normal. You place it on the stack, you select one of the cards, you add it to your tableau, and play proceeds with the next player. Of course, if there are no tokens in the town center, then your only option is to take tokens from the bag, discard one of them to the town center, and select a card with the other. Likewise, if the bag is empty, then you must select one of the tokens in the town center. This continues likewise, and in a 4-player game, the phase will end once all players have taken 3 cards from the board. In a 2 or a 3-player game, like in our case here, the phase ends when each player has taken 4 cards. Now let's analyze the different types of cards as well as their bonuses. So after you pick up a card, you place it in your tableau and you execute all effects depicted in the bottom of the card. These are usually instant effects and bonuses. However, if the bonuses have this indication, then the effect is applicable on every income phase. And if the bonuses have this symbol, then that effect will take place in scoring. This card here has immediate effects, which is to gain 1 victory point, and also an effect that will be applied during every income phase. Green cards only grant immediate bonuses, victory points and resources. With this card, for example, I gain 2 victory points, 1 sword and 1 crystal resource from the supply. Whenever you gain multiple resources, these must be placed in different docks. As you can see, your player board is split vertically into the 3 territory areas: forest, desert and glacier. The importance of collecting resources will be explained later. Yellow cards also have immediate bonuses, and one of them is always related to constructing a trading post. With this card, I gain 1 victory point, 1 crystal, and also I can build a trading post in the desert territory. There is absolutely no cost in doing so. You always take the topmost trading post and then you place it in the first space of the corresponding track, now the desert track. So your first trading post in the desert territory should be placed in this space, which depicts 1. When you build your second one will be placed here, and when you will build the third one will be placed here. The importance of placing trading posts will be explained later. Purple cards have a combination of instant bonuses and effects for the income phase. The instant bonuses always relate to moving one of your explorers. In this case, I will instantly gain 2 victory points and also move my explorer in the forest territory by 1 space. The last space of every territory track grants immediate victory points. This bonus is awarded whenever you reach the last space. With this card, I get to move twice in the forest territory. After moving once, I immediately gain 5 victory points. And with my second move, I will gain another 5 victory points, and I will get this reward for every step I move in this track while my marker is at the last space. The income effect of purple cards always relate with how many flags you have passed with all your explorers. I will come back to this with an example in the income phase. Blue cards also award immediate victory point bonuses and an effect which will be applicable in the income phase. This effect relates to gaining victory points for a specific species type which is depicted here. Species icons are in the top right corner of your cards. I will explain more in the income phase. There are 4 different types of species. Except that for blue card income bonuses, species also play another role which has to do with your favor tokens. As soon as you have 5 or more species of the same type, you take the corresponding favor token and place it in the corresponding favor tile on the board. Every such tile has 2 spaces. You have to place your token in the topmost space that has no other token. So in this case, I would have to place it here. As you can realize, for each species type, only the first two players who achieve that get to place their favor tokens. Having your favor tokens on these tiles will award you with victory points at the end of the game. Every blue and purple card of the yellow player will worth 1 victory point. You will understand this better in our scoring example. Red cards always have 2 species icons and also grant an end-of-game scoring effect. With this one, the player will gain 2 victory points for each forest trading post they have built at the end of the game. I have now explained all different types of cards. What I need to explain now is what you can do with your resources. By collecting resources, you try to accomplish the order depicted on each of the territories. The forest territory requires 1 sword, 1 crystal and 1 apple. The second one requires 4 resources of any type. And the glacier territory requires 3 resources of the same type. As soon as you have the required resources in the dock, you remove these resources, returning them back to the supply, and then you trigger bonuses depicted in this area. This can happen at any time during your turn and during any phase. You always trigger these bonuses, and you also trigger the rows where your trading posts are removed. So now I will advance 1 step with my explorer in the forest territory. I will gain 2 victory points and also 2 victory points for each green card I have in my tableau, so another 4 points. Each time you collect the required resources, you trigger the applicable bonuses. We move now to the gather phase. At the beginning of the gather phase, the board should look similar to this. As you can see, you have not yet replenished any of the used spaces, and if there are any action tokens in the town center, you can move them back into the bag. Now players again alternate turns, but this time in the opposite direction, starting with the last player. They select one of the tokens placed on the cards and place them in the corresponding type area in any one of the vacant spaces. So the black player goes first, and let's say they choose this token, which should be placed in one of the vacant spaces. And the player immediately gains the bonuses depicted here, which is 2 crystals and 2 victory points. If the green player also selects the same type of token, they would have to place it in one of the other spaces. And here they will only get 1 crystal and 2 victory points. When all tokens have been placed on spaces, the gather phase ends. Let's explain some of the bonuses. Here it's only victory points, 6, 4 or 2. The first space of the purple area is to build a trading post in any territory. The next one is to gain a resource of any type and also make a step with your explorer in any territory. This here means either take a resource of any type or make an advancement in a territory track. The rest of the bonuses are pretty straightforward. In the income phase, all players simultaneously gain bonuses from income effects on their cards. In our example, this blue card grants the player 1 victory point for each such species on their cards. The player has 3 such icons and gains 3 victory points. The income effect of all purple cards is the same, to gain 1 victory point for every flag they reached on the board with all their explorers. I have 2 cards, so I will gain 2 points per flag I've reached. Let's see these flags. As you can see, some of the spaces in every track of territories depict a flag. The yellow explorer has only reached or passed 1 flag for this territory, so only from that territory the yellow player scores 2 victory points. After players score bonuses for their income effects, they gain exploration rewards for every territory according to this diagram. The player whose explorer is further forward in the track will gain the victory points depicted in the first area, 3 victory points. The second player, the green player here, will take 2 victory points. Important, if you have not advanced at all in one track, you will not score any point. Also, if you look at the diagram, some of the ranks are not scored depending on your player count. So, in our 3 players example, the third rank is not scored. In case of a tie, all tied players score their rank, but the next rank is skipped. So if that were the situation, the green and the black player would score 3 victory points each, and the yellow would score nothing. Now check my graphics to understand all tie situations. In the final phase, return, you execute the following steps. For each territory, you move your explorer to your furthest trading post. So the yellow player will return back here, the green player will return to the starting point, and the black player will be advanced to this space. Then you return all action tokens into the bag. You discard all remaining face-up cards from the board and place new cards from the stack. And finally, you readjust the player turn order according to the player's score so far. The player with the most victory points becomes first, and so on and so forth. If there is a tie, then the relative position remains unchanged, so that would be the new player turn order in that case. After that, you proceed with the next round of the game. If that were the last round, however, you proceed to scoring. In scoring, players add to their score the following 2 bonus scoring categories. First, players score their red cards. I have 2 cards scoring 2 victory points for each of my constructed trading posts in the forest territory. I have constructed 2, so I gain 2 times 4, 8 victory points. Then I also have a card scoring 2 victory points for each trading post I have in the desert. Unfortunately, I have none, so I gain no victory points. Finally, players score victory points for their favorite tokens placed on the board, depending on the acquired cards on their tableau. The yellow player's favor tokens will grant the player 3 victory points for every purple card they have in their tableau, 2 victory points for every yellow card, and 1 victory point for every blue card they have. The player with most victory points wins the game. If there is a tie, then all tied players share their victory. Explorers of Navoria Forgoten Lands is an expansion of the base game which enables you to play the game in a solo mode, but also in multiplayer mode with up to 5 players. It enhances the base game with 5 new additional features, and you must make note that if you use the expansion and play in multiplayer, you have to use all of them. I will now explain all differences and all additional features of this expansion, starting of course with setup. If you don't use the extra mat, then you have to place this token here as an extra town area, and if there are 5 players in the game, you need to also place this tile here. If you play with the expansion, also place a supply of contract tokens next to the board. The expansion introduces an additional type of tokens as well as a corresponding type of cards. Again, you place all tokens into the bag unless it's a 2 players game, in which case you only place 2. The new deck is shuffled and placed here, and then you also reveal the top 3 cards. Take the faction tiles, and after you shuffle them, reveal tiles equal to the number of players plus 1. So in our 3 players example, I will reveal 4. Then take skill tiles and do the same. Now, using player turn order, each player takes one of these faction tiles. Then, using reverse player turn order, each player also takes a skill tile. Any remaining tiles are placed back in the box. These tiles are placed like that next to the player's board. Faction tiles offer immediate and ongoing bonuses. With this one here, the player immediately gains a grey card from the face down stack, which is added to the player's tableau immediately. The player also gains 1 contract token, and these are kept in the player's play area. Skill tiles offer bonuses which are activated by spending contracts. We will check them out in a bit. Take the 4 species tokens and randomly place 1 in the last space of each territory track. The last remaining token is removed from the game. Take the goal cards and after you shuffle them, place 3 cards facing upwards, one next to the other, 1 for every round of the game. Remaining cards are removed from the game. Finally, take the 6 exploration tiles and randomly cover the printed scoring area of each territory. The remaining tiles will be used later, so place them next to the board. For the recruit phase, we now also have grey cards to take when we use the new grey action token. Grey cards don't depict species icons, but count as 2 cards of the types indicated in their bottom part. Next, we have species tokens at the end of every track. When you reach the end of a track, if there is a token there, you collect it as well as a contract as indicated here. Most importantly, this token counts as 1 species icon of the indicated type. So now I have 5 icons of this species and I may place my favor token. Important! If you play the game with the expansion and simply because there are more cards now, there is an additional card type, the recruit phase lasts until all players have drafted 4 cards if it's a game with up to 4 players and 3 cards only in a 5-player count. In the gather phase, we now have a new grey area to use with our action tokens. In this area, you mainly gain contracts and victory points. For the income phase, we now have new exploration tiles covering the normal exploration bonuses. These award contract tokens, victory points, and also victory points for your red cards. In the return phase, you remove all of the exploration bonus tiles and shuffle them with the rest of the tiles next to the board. Then you randomly choose 3 tiles and replenish the slots. Also for the return phase, you have a goal card to score. You score the card corresponding to the current round. So in the first round you will score 2, 6 or 12 victory points if you have built 2, 4 or 6 trading posts respectively. You can pause the video to see more scoring effects of goal cards. Finally, we have faction tiles and skill tiles. Faction tiles grant immediate or ongoing effects. We saw that one during setup. If a player has this one, it counts as having 1 species icon of every type. And with this one, if you tie with another player when it comes to exploration bonuses, you win the tie. And this icon here means that whenever you gain the treasure bonus, you gain an additional victory point. Skill tiles offer you ways to spend your contracts. The tile I have now offers me 2 options to use. Both of them require the spending of 1 contract. The top one can only be used during the A phase, recruit, while the second one may be used in either recruit or the gather phase. If I use my top power, then once when I draw action tokens from the bag, I can draw 3 instead of 2. With the other power, I can spend 1 contract and gain a resource of any type. Important! You can use each of your powers once on every round. So for your convenience, when you spend the required contracts, place them on the power so you remember that you cannot use it until the end of the round. When the round ends, you will remove those contracts, returning them back to the supply. And that were the rules of Explorers of Navoria by Dranda Games. If you like our videos and want to see more, please subscribe to our channel. Until next time, have fun and play more board games.